Let's face it, you're sick of the fresh start fallacy. You know the drill. You have one killer day, one great week, and then you totally crash, losing all momentum. That inconsistent effort is the #1 reason your goals feel impossible. You think you need more motivation, more willpower, but that's a lie. You don't lack motivation. You lack a system for consistency. The conventional wisdom about hustle and intensity is flawed. It creates the curse of one-day excellence that traps you in a cycle of highs and lows. The only way to escape that is to adopt a mindset built for the long war. The philosophy of Miyamoto Musashi. Today, I'm giving you the ancient blueprint. You'll learn 8 samurai habits that were essential to Musashi's legendary consistency and discipline. This isn't just about small habits. It's about forming an unbreakable routine that transforms your identity. If you're ready to kill inconsistency forever, stay put, because we're starting right now. Ever feel like you're trapped in a cycle? You have one day, maybe even a full week, where you're totally on fire. You hit the gym, you crush your work goals, and you feel like a genius. But then just as quickly you crash. You regress back to zero, and the progress you made feels utterly lost. That sudden fleeting brilliance is what I call the curse of one-day excellence. It's the illusion of progress, and it's the #1 killer of true achievement. Look, this isn't a lack of motivation. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of mastery. You confuse intense, unsustainable bursts of effort with true power. That one amazing day is simply your ego inflating, making you feel good without building the systems that last. You're trying to win the marathon with a single exhausting sprint. The problem? You're setting yourself up for failure by celebrating the spike, only to be crushed by the inevitable dip that follows. A true warrior, like Miyamoto Musashi, wouldn't respect that kind of unstable effort. For him, the one who wins isn't the one who strikes the hardest once, but the one who can keep striking with precision every single time. That one day of greatness costs you 2 weeks of recovery, and that's not smart. We need to escape this loop, but how do we do that when the whole world seems obsessed with quick results? The pressure to achieve results now is a modern-day illness. Everyone's rushing, chasing the viral success stories, and you feel like you're falling behind if you don't speed up. But this obsession with speed, this rejection of the slow, deliberate process is what keeps you trapped in that inconsistent cycle. It's a complete rejection of the wisdom of the warrior. Miyamoto Musashi rejected haste entirely. His philosophy, often boiled down to the Book of 5 Rings, wasn't about quick kills. It was about positioning, observation, and perfect timing, things that can only be built through patient, repeated effort. He knew that haste leads to mistakes, and mistakes are costly. When you rush, you're not actually being efficient. You're just cutting corners, and that weakness will show up when you need strength the most. Think of building a muscle. You can't rush that. You can't cram all your workouts into one day and expect lasting growth. Real structural strength comes from consistent, low-key stress applied over time. Musashi's life was a testament to consistency, not speed. But if we reject the rush, what's the non-negotiable component that anchors this kind of stable daily progress? Habitone, the secret of the unbreakable routine. If rejecting haste is the start, the foundation is the unbreakable routine. Most people think a routine is boring or limiting, but to a master like Miyamoto Musashi, it was the ultimate form of freedom. Why? Because when the routine is solid, you eliminate the daily mental cost of having to decide whether or not to do the work. The habit does the heavy lifting for you. The real secret here is that the routine is the physical manifestation of your consistency. It's the silent commitment you make to yourself every morning, long before the world or your inner critic wakes up. For Musashi, waking, meditating, and sharpening his sword weren't options. They were the path. He didn't waste mental energy debating his first moves. They were automatic. Your success is locked inside your schedule. If you want to achieve anything great, stop focusing on giant leaps and start loving the small, repetitive actions. Think of that perfect cup of coffee you make every morning. It's automatic, right? That's the power we need to transfer to your hardest goals. Now let's look at the next key samurai habit that defines the start of this unbreakable routine. Habit 2, the blade that's sharpening your day. The second of the samurai habits is simple and brutally effective. The blade that sharpens your day. For Miyamoto Musashi, his sword wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of his focus and consistency. He didn't start the day with relaxation. He started with the most important, most difficult work, the one thing he would do perfectly no matter what. This is what we call eating the frog. But for Musashi, it was simply sharpening the blade. In your life, sharpening the blade means attacking your most important task, MIT, before the world wakes up. Don't check email, don't look at your phone, don't chat. Reserve the first hour of your day for your most challenging task. For example, if you want to write 500 words before 8 a.m. If you want to learn coding, dedicate 45 minutes to the code. Why is this so powerful? Because by winning the morning battle, you build a momentum of consistency that extends throughout the entire day. You prove to yourself that you are in control. If you can do the hardest thing first, the rest of the day feels easy. But to maintain that blade sharp, you need a philosophy that cuts through distraction. What did the samurai never allow to move him? Habit 3, desire nothing beyond the path. The biggest trap for people seeking consistency is the constant desire for a result other than the one they are getting right now. You're working out, but you wish you already had the six-pack. You're studying, but you wish you were already an expert. This constant mental state of desiring the future makes you miserable in the present, and it kills your focus. This is why the third samurai habit is desire nothing beyond the path itself. For Miyamoto Musashi, the act of sharpening the blade was not a means to an end. It was the end. He found his purpose, his peace, and his mastery in the process. He taught that attachment to the result, the victory, the fame, the reward, actually weakens your stance. When you are emotionally attached to an outcome, you become fragile. If the outcome doesn't go your way, your entire structure collapses. So how do you apply this? When you sit down to work on your toughest goal, shift your internal narrative. Don't say, I'm writing this chapter so I can finish the book. Say, I am performing the discipline of writing today. By dedicating yourself fully to the consistency of the process, you strip the work of its emotional charge, making it less intimidating and far more sustainable. When you do this, you unlock a powerful hidden resource. Habit 4, the hidden power of repetition. Most people hate repetition. They seek novelty, the hack, the next bright stimulus. But for a master, repetition isn't boredom. It's a rite of power. This is the fourth samurai habit, the hidden power of repetition. Think of Miyamoto Musashi practicing the same strike hundreds, maybe thousands of times, not until he got it right, but until it was impossible to get it wrong. It's this relentless consistency that transforms technique into art and intention into results. The hidden power of repetition lies in its capacity to engrave your consistency into your subconscious. When you practice the same samurai habit every day, you are rewriting your internal code, making the action become automatic and free of mental effort. If you're learning to invest, it's not about hitting the next big stock, but about making the monthly contribution, reading the quarterly report and repeating. Repetition is what creates your muscle memory, both in the body and in the mind. The warrior doesn't think about how to wield the sword. He simply does it. Repetition frees you from the need for willpower, which is a limited resource. By transforming repetition into a sacred right, you build an unbreakable foundation. But what threatens this foundation more than anything? Habit 5, vigilance against the inner enemy. The greatest enemy of your consistency isn't out there. It's housed within you. It's the voice of self-sabotage, fear and doubt, disguised as realism. This is the fifth of the samurai habits, vigilance against the inner enemy. For Miyamoto Musashi, the real battle didn't end when the opponent fell. It intensified in the mind, where the ego tried to sabotage the next training session with complacency or the memory of past failures. This eternal vigilance is what separates the master from the amateur. The amateur, after a good day, relaxes his guard, and the inner enemy infiltrates with the excuse, "You deserve a 3-day break." The master, however, maintains the watch. His consistency isn't an effort, it's an attitude. Think of it as a sentinel. The vigilance is not about fighting, but about observing the mental landscape for threats. When the voice of self-sabotage arises, you don't need to do the samurai habit today. Your practice isn't to argue. It's simply to recognize the voice and immediately return to action. It's like the wind passing over a mountain. You notice the wind, but it doesn't move the mountain. It's this attitude of detached observation that ensures your consistency is never broken. But where does the samurai turn to truly forge the mind? Habit 6. The silence that forges the mind. Where most people seek noise, music, podcasts, notifications, the samurai seeks silence. This is the 6th of the samurai habits, the silence that forges the mind. You cannot have unshakable consistency if your mind is constantly jumping from stimulus to stimulus. The silence isn't an absence of sound. It's an active exercise in focus, and it's where your consistency is truly tested. Miyamoto Musashi spent long periods in seclusion or caves, not to escape the world, but to dominate the world within him. Silence forces you to confront the turbulence of your own mind, unresolved anger, fear of failure, the endless to-do list. Instead of reacting, you learn to just observe these thoughts, allowing them to pass without breaking your state of focus. The practice is simple, yet powerful. Reserve 15 minutes a day to sit in absolute silence. No phone, no books, no music. It's not meditating to empty the mind, but to train the consistency of your attention. You are training to remain on task, even when the task is just staying there. It's this forced quietude that creates the mental strength to sustain the repetition and the samurai habits when the real world gets messy. But what happens when that real world hits you with true chaos? Habits even, the discipline that survives chaos. This is the 7th of the samurai habits, and it's the ultimate test, the discipline that survives chaos. Most people can be consistent when life is easy, when the routine is smooth and the sun is shining. But the true warrior, like Miyamoto Musashi, proved his worth in the middle of a swirling, unpredictable battle. His consistency was not dependent on calm. It emerged from the storm. When chaos strikes, a family emergency, a massive deadline, an unexpected financial blow, the amateur throws away the entire system. The warrior, however, knows that this is precisely when the unbreakable routine is most vital. You don't aim for the full 100% effort. You aim for your minimum standard of excellence. If you can't meditate for 15 minutes, you do 2 minutes of deep breathing. If you can't write 500 words, you write 1 single sentence. The power of this habit is in the psychological victory. By maintaining the chain, even in a small way, you tell your subconscious that your commitment to consistency is non-negotiable, regardless of your circumstances. It solidifies your identity as someone who always shows up. When you master this, you have one final samurai habit left to complete the journey. Habit 8. The invisible legacy of the warrior's path. What remains after you become consistency? What remains is the invisible legacy of the warrior's path. Real success isn't what people see, the money, the title, but who you became through the samurai habits that no one saw. The true mastery of Miyamoto Musashi was not his invincibility, but his unshakable mental and physical consistency, which he cultivated in the solitude of the path. Your consistency is your greatest asset, and it's invisible to the crowd. It manifests in your ability to stay calm under pressure, to make clear decisions, and to return to the path of the calm mind after a mistake. This is what you leave behind. It is the proof that you honored your potential and did not bend to the curse of one-day excellence. A warrior's life has no finish line. The ultimate goal is the journey itself, the consistency of your practice. The reward is your character forged in the rite of repetition. Your legacy is your silent consistency, which inspires others without needing words. You've absorbed the blueprint, the 8 samurai habits that break the cycle of inconsistency. You've learned that the true mastery of Miyamoto Musashi was built not on strength, but on the relentless consistency of small, repeatable actions. You know that to defeat the curse of one-day excellence, you must transform the work into a sacred rite of repetition. Now, the final question is, are you ready to kill the old, inconsistent version of yourself? Which of the samurai habits, sharpening the blade, rejecting the outcome, or embracing the silence, will you implement today to make inconsistency an unacceptable violation of your new identity? The warrior's path is defined by those who show up every day, not just the motivated ones. Make a vow right now. I will not break the chain. Share your commitment in the comments below. If you're serious about forging your invisible legacy, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The journey to unbreakable consistency starts now.